Alright, hey guys, we're doing topic 5, class 5, and these steps are very important. Alright, we need to do each of these every time. So if you're someone that likes to write down steps, then look at these steps over here and make sure you understand each of them. So, to solve quadratics, we're solving now, not just factoring. If we were factoring, we would take something like this and just rewrite it as the product of two factors. But we're solving, so now what we're going to do is get everything equal to 0. So like this one's not everything equal to 0. We have to fix that. And then we factor. Then we set each factor equal to 0. So I set this thing equal to 0 and solved. Set this part equal to 0 and solved. And then check our answer. This is often overlooked, so you got to make sure you check your answers. All right, we can know whether we get right answers every single time we do one of these problems. So I'm going to do the first one my way, and the second one I'll do Miss Hartman's way. So we know we're going to do that and this. We need factors that multiply to give us a 15, or a 1 times 15, and we need factors that add to a negative 8. So that could be 1 and 15. Well, not quite. It's going to be negative 1 and negative 15 because they have to multiply to a positive but add to a negative. It's negative 16 doesn't work. 2 doesn't go into 15. Let's try a negative 3 and a negative 5. Those multiply to 15 and add to negative 8, so that's what we want to use. So, as you know, we fill in these boxes with the x squared and the 15 automatically, and then we have a negative 3x and a negative 5x. So factor. Now when we factor this out, do I factor out a 3 or do I factor out a negative 3? It's got to be a negative 3 because these are two negative numbers. If I factored everything positive out, it wouldn't give me what I wanted over here. Or it wouldn't work out to the negative 8. So factor out a negative 3, factor out an x, factor out an x, factor out a negative 5. And that gives me x minus 3, x minus 5. Doesn't matter which order I write these in. So now to solve this equation, it's a piece of cake, right? I know that I want x minus 3 to equal 0, so x has to equal 3 minus 3 is 0, so x has to equal 3. And I want x minus 5 to equal 0, so then x minus 5 equals 0 gives me x at 5 to both sides. Gives me x equals 5. Those are my two answers. Now I got to check them. Don't forget to check your answers. That's a really important step. You can guarantee whether you have right answers every time or not. So I plug it in. I plug in a 3. I get 3 squared minus 3 times 8 plus 15. That's 9 minus 24 plus 15, and that does indeed equal 0. That works. And then I plug in a 5. I get 5 squared plus 5 times 8 plus 15, and that gives me 25. Oh, that should be a minus, my bad. It should be a minus 8x, so it's minus 5 times 8. And then I get a minus 40 plus 15, and that does add up to 0, so that works too. Alright, so those are my two answers. So this one, it's not already equal to 0, so I got to fix that. I got to make it equal to 0. So let me switch up our colors here. How do I do that? I want to keep the x squared positive. So what I need to do is I need to add or subtract these terms from both sides so that everything is on one side. So I want to minus the 24. That will cancel the 24 over here, but I got to minus it from both sides. And then I want to add a 10x. And if I add a 10x, that gives me 24 minus 24, 10x plus 10x just equals 0. And that gives me an x squared plus 10x and a minus 24. So now this is a problem just like this. Alright, so I'm going to just do it Miss Hartman's way. She does it a little quicker. You kind of bounce the numbers around. I need something that multiplies to negative 24. So it's going to multiply to negative 24, and it's going to add to a 10. So to multiply to a negative number, I have to have a positive and a negative. And to add to a 10, it's going to be a positive 12 and a negative 2. So I'm going to write this as a positive 12x and a negative 2x, and then have my minus 24 and my x squared. So then I factor those, and I look at this, and I got an x plus 12, and I look at this, and I'm going to factor out a negative 2. Oh, my bad, I factored an x out, sorry. And I factor out a negative 2, and that gives me x plus a negative divided by negative is positive 12. And that gives me an x plus 12. I factor out of this, leaves me with an x. And I factor an x plus 12 out of that, and it gives me a minus 2. So there is my factored form. So now I set each of the factors equal to 0. X plus 12 equals 0. That is x equals negative 12. What do I plug in here? I got to plug in a 2. 2 minus 2 is 0. So x equals 2 is my other answer. So those are my two answers. Alright, I should check my answers as well. So I'm going to make sure I do that. I plug in a 2, and that gives me 2 squared equals 24 minus 10 times 2. Is that right? 4 equals 24 minus 20. So that works. And then I plug in my negative 12. Negative 12 squared equals 24 minus 10 times negative 12. And that gives me 144. Negative times negative is positive, equals 24 sorry about that, 24 minus negative 10 times 20. So that's a plus 120. So I get 144 equals 144. So that is my correct answer. But that's just to check my answer. My actual answer is this and this. There's two answers because it's an x squared, and those are my actual answers. Just so you can see another example, we need to set this equal to 0, but look at, this is already in its factored form, but I can't set these equal to 0. And I can't set these equal to 6. That doesn't work either. Right? Because if I set this equal to 6, 6 times anything is not 6. So what I'm going to make sure I do is FOIL this out. So you can FOIL it or use the box method, whichever you like. That's going to give you an x squared plus 3x, x squared plus 3x minus 2x minus 6. So it gives you an x squared plus x minus 6 equals 6. So now I have something that looked like this initial equation. Alright, so what did I have to do here? I had to get everything to one side, so I had to do the same thing here. I'm going to minus 6, and I get x squared plus x minus 12 equals 0. So now I got to factor this. I factor this, and it gives me an x, and now I'm just skipping the steps of showing you because you should know how to factor this. So you know how to factor this, and you get an x minus 3 and an x plus 4 equals 0. Good. Now all we do is set x minus 3 equals 0, so that gives me x equals positive 3. And I set x plus 4 equals 0. That gives me an x. Subtract 4 from both sides, and I get an x equals negative 4. So those are my final answers. Right here and right here. If I want to make sure that I'm correct, what I should do is check them. So don't be lazy, make sure you check your answers, and you get a, plug in a 3. 3 plus 3 is 6, 3 minus 2 is 1, and that equals 6, so that works. Plug in a negative 4, so I'm plugging a negative 4 in here, and I get a negative 4 plus 3 is negative 1. I'm getting a negative 4 minus 2 is a negative 6, and that equals 6. So they both work. Both of these are our answers. Alright, now you should try these ones, and I will see you in class next class.